And now for our feature presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Botching It Up podcast. Every bruise, bump, and botch. Wrestling, you've been put on notice. Let's get ready to ramble!
On October the 21st, 2018, Billy Corgan produced the National Wrestling Alliance's 70th anniversary show for pay-per-view, with TNA alumni Nick Aldis lifting the NWA World Heavyweight Championship from Cody Rhodes in a scintillating main event that made most fans' year-end lists. At this time, both men, as well as the promotion they were wrestling for, had something to prove. Cody, fresh off promoting the first US independent wrestling event to sell 10,000 tickets since 1993, was looking to continue his growing momentum as he began to file the first trademarks for what would become AEW. Aldis, meanwhile, was attempting to rehabilitate his career after throwing his lot in with Jeff Jarrett's failed Global Force Wrestling promotion. However, it was Billy Corgan, who had officially become the owner of NWA in October 2017, that had the most on the line. A lifelong wrestling fan, the Smashing Pumpkins frontman had experienced several unfortunate run-ins with the wrestling industry, from Paul Heyman attempting to squeeze $1 million out of him for ECW ownership in 2000, to loaning TNA money in 2015 and 2016, which was not paid back. The promotion he had just acquired was no longer the cash cow of the 80s, and for the last decade had held shows in such esteemed venues as Joe Exotic's backyard. To everybody's relief, the event was a success, and the National Wrestling Alliance was back. By October 2019, the NWA was debuting its own show, Power. With the chugging guitars of Dokken's Into the Fire playing in the background, the program offered a slice of the old school, with simple but effective stories built via traditional promos and matches. To many fans sick of WWE's stagnant product and modern wrestling's lack of chin holds, the NWA was a breath of fresh air, a charming underdog promotion with a promising roster. However, in March 2020, disaster struck, and COVID-19 rocked the very foundations of our society. Wrestling promotions with budgets of millions scrambled to create some sort of income without crowds or ticket gates. Many smaller promotions without the financial support needed to stabilize themselves died a quiet death. After an ill-advised attempt at content creation in the form of Carneyland, Billy Corgan was once more forced to close the doors of the National Wrestling Alliance. Much of his gifted independent roster, meanwhile, found positions in other companies, with wrestlers such as Eddie Kingston and Ricky Starks jumping ship to Tony Khan's still prospering AEW. The final nail in the coffin was NWA's producer, Dave Lagana, being accused of sexual assault following the widespread Me Too movement within the wrestling community. Dreams of the NWA reaching its former prosperity were, seemingly, over. On the 24th of February 2021, Joseph Josephus Hudson, who had worked in the NWA promotion since 2011, passed away. As the wrestling community mourned his death, the NWA quietly put plans together for a show in his memory. On March 2nd, 2021, Billy Corgan announced plans for NWA Back for the Attack, headlined by Nick Aldis facing Josephus's longtime friend and tag partner, Aaron Stevens. Like a phoenix risen from the ashes, NWA once again prepared to dive into that fire, with the pay-per-view set for March 21st, and the comeback episode of Power debuting March 23rd on Fight TV, the NWA's new service station. Both Billy Corgan and the National Wrestling Alliance have stubbornly held on to their existence in wrestling for decades. But will this be the comeback story of 2021? Or another unfortunate side note in the sad recent history of the songwriter's bank balance and the promotion's respectability? We're going to find out on this week's episode of Botching It Up.
But the funny thing is I went on and bought my own wrestling company called the National Wrestling Alliance.
Yeah, alright, Billy. Well, it's time to check in, isn't it?
Botched
up.
Brother!
What's up? This is the Botching Up podcast, and this week we're talking about NWA. Back on the attack. They're back, baby. Billy and his beefy men are doing it again. As always, you're me, Benito, and my good friend Basil.
Despite all my rage, I'm still just a small-time independent wrestling promotion.
Anyway, so like you mentioned in your awesome intro, NWA kind of suffered a lot during the pandemic, but they're back now with a pay-per-view. We're going to talk about the pay-per-view and then the Power after the pay-per-view.
Yeah, And regardless of the quality of what they've produced, it is actually amazing that Billy Corgan just keeps coming back. You've had Jim Cornette being fired, who was kind of a centerpiece of NWA for a while for racist comments. You've had, as I mentioned, their producer.
Yeah, so do you know who's booking NWA now?
I would assume it's Billy, right?
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure whether you did, but I didn't really see the difference between pre-Lagana and post-Lagana.
Power was exactly the same. The pay-per-view, I thought, was of less quality.
I prefer the pay-per-view to Power, but I think I've forgiven a lot of the pay-per-view content because it was so haphazardly thrown together with quite a thin roster.
But, well, surely it wasn't haphazardly put together because they've had a year to plan their return event. Or did Billy wasn't sure he was going to come back, maybe?
I can't help but feel this whole thing was spurred on by the death of Josephus, because there was, within a week, that was when they announced the show. The main event was a sort of tribute to Josephus, and I feel like they just wanted to put a piece of content together and throw it out on pay-per-view as like a half comeback, half tribute show. That's all I can presume, because in terms of actual build-up, there was little to none. There was one 11-minute video on YouTube, and in relation to the matches that they actually put together, I don't know whether Billy's doing the matchmaking as well, but it was pretty thin looking on paper. I'm sure you agree. Yeah,
but this deal with Fight TV must have been planned for a while now, because that just doesn't come together overnight.
Yeah, well, I'm not really sure when they actually put that together, really. None of it really makes sense. As what you're pointing out, if that pay-per-view was their planned comeback show, and they just changed the main event, then I've got to say that's a pretty poor build-up to that, and a pretty poor card in general to present for the first time in over a year.
Good news, because now Fight TV is the official home of the NWA, which means they're probably making more money than what they did when it was just on
I really
YouTube.
think that saved this company. I think without Fight TV, if they went back to YouTube, this company would have folded within 6 months. And again, credit to Billy Corgan for not only overcoming coronavirus, but for overcoming Carneyland, because that was the final nail in the coffin, I thought, for NWA. That was so bad. Ricky Starks in an interview said that was the only reason that he left NWA.
Well, a lot of talent walked out because of that.
I mean, and it lasted, two and a half weeks. Got the idea of them trying to find content to create, but that was a massive step in the wrong direction. You would have gotten more fanfare by doing nothing. Yeah.
Right, so this event, I think I actually enjoyed more than you, which is strange. And I think it's because I hate this style of wrestling. I really don't like this 80s TV studio set. It's not my thing at all. So I went into this just knowing I wouldn't like it and saying to myself, I'll try and have as much fun with it as possible. So I wasn't expecting anything, and then I just enjoyed whatever I did get. Whereas you, I think, went into it hoping to have a good time.
Yeah, that's fair to state. I think I thought about why I had such a negative reaction to the show initially. I don't even think this is a trivial point at this point. The sound quality is atrocious. It's not just snafus, like the music not playing at the right time, or music talking over announcers, or tinny interference coming through. That I can deal with all of that stuff. The actual thing that put me off more than anything else was the crowd of 10 people that I assume are Billy's mates, who were just raucous, and the production of it was overpowering, so that all I could hear was them.
They were louder than the commentary.
But they were clashing against the cheap ring sound, and it gave me a terrible headache over 2 hours. And I just want to ask you, Ben, what is Billy Corgan's full-time job?
Music producer.
Right, so the guy should know if his program sounds like shit, right?
Yeah, that is a strange one. I didn't even put those two dots together, but yeah, that is a strange one. He should have this locked down, right?
Yeah, and it's the worst part of the show.
At least should have some decent recording equipment.
No, I did come round to the pay-per-view after a while. Quite a few matches impressed me, because the first two matches and the first sort of 45 minutes of production plummeted my opinion of the show to such an extent that they then rebuilt me just by giving me something half decent.
Well, what do you think of the videos? Because I quite liked at the beginning of the show and a few times before the matches, and then on Power they did like a replay kind of thing, a highlights video of the pay-per-view. I thought they were quite well produced.
I think some of the video packages are great, especially the Power one where they're looking back on what's transpired, and you can see that in Power's intro. It's like a sort of like a episodic intro where they introduce the wrestlers as sort of characters of this TV show.
I love this. I got this note too. It's much like UFC fight nights where they have all the guys that are about to go against each other. They had all the wrestlers that are about to have matches against each other. Really nice stuff.
I love that aesthetic, but then there's other times that it just kind of falls down. Just tiny things. Again, I'm nitpicking, and I fully admit that I'm nitpicking. But if you're opening your show, just get Aaron Stevens in the room, you know? Don't use a Zoom call video. The first thing I see on your pay-per-view is a Zoom call video of Aaron Stevens talking about the tragic loss of Josephus. He's in your room. He's in your studio. Just sit him down. Promo. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just record the thing professionally.
The other thing that I thought with this show, before we get to the pay-per-view, is people's last memories of NWA was the YouTube show they watched for free called Power. And I thought, if you haven't done anything for over a year and you're coming back and you're putting a $20 pay-per-view to buy with no build-up and a sort of weak kind of looking card, change the logos hanging around the studio. You know, just put up a back for the Attack logo.
Oh, yeah, it was just a Power Studio, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you tune in and you're like, what am I paying $20 for here? I used to watch this on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
You know? But tiny things like that.
Yeah, it was a rough look. Yeah. Okay, so after we have all those videos, we got one of his tribute to Josephus. He's been champion for 882 days.
Wow.
I'm a big fan of this, because it must be decades since we've had a champion go that long.
Yeah, again, completely understandable, because obviously this is our half tribute show to Josephus, so Nick Aldis doesn't necessarily have to act like a heel here.
Oh, it was a complete babyface promo. He puts over everyone on the card. He puts over the company. He puts over his opponent. He puts over Josephus.
I think I probably just would have had Billy doing this.
Does Billy come on TV that often?
No, I don't think so. But I think because it's been such a long time, because so many events have occurred, the whole Dave Lagana thing, Josephus dying, coronavirus, I thought that this would be an opportune time for Billy to just sort of address the public before we went full on back into NWA. But, you know, that's a personal opinion.
If he's not too busy, him being an on-screen talent would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
he's not that bad of an actor or talker, is he?
No, he was pretty. It wasn't bad in Impact. It was definitely better. I mean,
obviously he's got stage presence. He's a rock star.
Yeah.
Okay. So our opening match is a triple threat. It's a four-way, between three people I had no idea who they were.
Crimson.
Easily, I thought Crimson was going to win this, but no. The guy with the most stupid name in the match, Slice Boogie, wins his debut match on NWA.
I saw that and I immediately assumed it's because that Slice Boogie is the one that actually wanted to sign a contract.
Okay.
The match itself was relatively crisp, and I thought everybody looked polished, but it went, 4.5 minutes?
Yeah, it didn't go long at all.
Opening four-way, 4.5 minutes. Walk this one through with me.
Just don't put it on. Give another match another extra 5 minutes.
But even if you're doing a 4.5 minute match, don't do a four-way. How are you supposed to get people to all four people to look good and get their shit in 4.5 minutes?
Have Slice Boogie get a win over Crimson, who people like you and me know. Yeah,
dude, that was just old man Vince McMahon booking. You know, here's some time. Yeah, not a great start to the show, this.
No, not at all. And then, here we go. We're backstage with May Valentine. And she looks like this coked up idiot.
Oh my god.
That just is struggling to stay awake.
Oh,
and
damn,
is forgetting her script the entire time.
I thought I was the one that would go full cornet on this podcast eventually.
don't get me started on May Valentine. She needs acting lessons, or she needs to be fired. One of the two.
Jesus. Maybe she's just doing a favour for Billy.
Well, I think she's doing a couple of favours to get on TV.
Oh, that's uncalled for.
So I take it back. I have nothing against this woman. I'm just playing. She interviews Sal Rinario, and he talks about the matches and doesn't talk about himself at all. So why would I care about him?
I didn't understand this segment at all. And May Valentine reappeared when she was talking to Sly's Boogie on Power, and now, after that promo, I'm convinced that this is actually her gimmick. I can't see any other reason why she's this sort of half asleep. Then this must be her gimmick, which...
Oh, God.
I mean, that's kind of late 90s WWF again, isn't it, really? Ditzy, blonde, you know?
Well, if she's doing it on purpose, she's doing an amazing job, because it was hard to watch.
But this was so small time. This is where, like, you truly remember the fact that you're watching an independent wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
A not very good talker doing a backstage promo with a guy that I don't know, who doesn't explain who he is and doesn't say anything of note.
Doesn't even talk about himself. He doesn't.
I think he was hyping up the rest of the card.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
But why would you have this guy do that?
Put someone whose face we recognise. Well, Nick Aldis had already done it at the beginning of the show, so this was totally unnecessary.
But exactly. So you're charging $20 for a pay-per-view, and so far you've given somebody 45. It goes about 45 minutes of filler, really, because a lot of these segments feel like they are just filling time. But then the show itself only went 2 hours.
Yeah,
it's not a good first impression to people resubscribing into the idea of the National Wrestling Alliance. That's all I'm saying.
Let's talk about first impressions. Our next match is Kratos, the tag team champion, one half of, meets Tyrus.
Yeah, I like the look of Kratos, but I think he needs a new jacket because he's looking a bit like Lance Archer without the rat tail.
Okay. Yeah. Tyrus being formerly Brodus Clay. He
Brodus
comes
Clay
out,
looking out of shape, dude.
Very out of shape. Cuts a really awful promo saying that he hasn't officially been given airtime, so he's just going to take it for himself. And then gets in the ring, and the two, I think, are meant to have like a hoss fight brawl. It feels kind of 80s throwback, but they both very quickly run out of energy and steam.
I loved the bit where Kratos went for a half-assed Roman Reigns Superman punch, and then followed it up by a really bad Jericho elbow. I was just like, yo, I am watching indie wrestling right now. I don't understand why they've gotten Tyrus, aka Brodus Clay, involved in this product right now, especially after the several allegations that have been made about him, and just his affiliation with the right-wing programming of Fox Studios. I don't get it. Do you know this?
I didn't know any of that, no.
Yeah, so Brodus Clay has basically gone on to a career as a Fox News host. He's on his own talk show, basically. That's why he's so out of shape.
So he's out of wrestling?
Yeah. Loads of text messages leaked from him to his co-worker in which he was incredibly sexually inappropriate, like harassing her continually sexually via text. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, why does Billy want to be involved with these people? Like, this is one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, like Billy Corgan's choice of people he surrounds himself with. He's had Jim Cornette done for racist behaviour. His producer got Me Too'd. Tom Latimer has a history of sort of marital abuse with his ex-wife, Charlotte.
Yeah.
Tyrus has got bad PR. But guys like Tyrus, they're not even worth the bad PR. Like, why is he giving this guy a platform?
As I said, is Billy just desperate for big names, and he's bringing in whoever is willing to come in?
I mean, I guess so, but Tyrus is just so much bad baggage right now. Not even just showing that he has political leanings, but also his case history, talking to women. And from what we saw in this match, he's no longer got anything to offer as a wrestler either.
I've got something to pitch you, though.
Go on.
Could you imagine a tag team of Tyrus and Eddie Kingston? Tyrus is allowed nowhere near the mic. Eddie does all the talking, but both of them are just two out-of-shape guys that just beat the shit out of you and don't do any wrestling moves.
That's pretty cool, actually. That's a pretty cool idea.
That would be the best way to use Tyrus, I think.
I think he had given up with TNA by this point, or Impact. But I can't remember who he was with. Maybe it was EC3. I'm not entirely sure. But basically, he became the big bad backup for a main event caliber wrestler in Impact Wrestling. And he was great at that. He should be this big bodyguard guy. He shouldn't be getting his own sort of singles career. And that's exactly what they seem to be throwing this into, to the point where they've given him Austin Idol as a manager on Power. So I don't really know why they would promote him to this level. It seems like he's going into a championship feud with the Pope now. Yeah,
I've got a feeling that's going to be a long-term thing, because they mentioned if Pope defends his championship 7 times, he then gets a world championship opportunity. So I feel like one way that story might go is that Tyrus has, not the very next match, because there was a number 1 contendership on Power, but he gets the match after that. And Tyrus continues to be involved in the matches, but Pope wins until it's the 7th one, and then Tyrus causes the loss on the 7th match.
See, I just don't understand why you're putting your stock into this guy to that level.
Because he's got a name value, I guess. People recognise him on the poster.
But has Brodus Clay got a bigger name value than someone like Chris Adonis?
No.
He hasn't got the name value or the talent of other people that are a part of this company right now. So I don't understand why you'd be putting this guy of everyone in a championship contendership, even if it's the TV title. I don't know. I thought the match was pretty shit, honestly, even for slow, plodding big man matches. But I did think Kratos looked cool. Yeah,
Kratos was cool. This was my first my first interaction with Kratos, because I've not watched much NWA from year back or whenever. And talking about shit, we're backstage with Valentine again. As much charisma as a wooden stick.
Oh my god.
She's interviewing Trevor Murdoch.
Trevor Murdoch is my favourite part of NWA.
You know what? I didn't understand him, but then actually I'm super into him.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff.
He is the aesthetic. He is the prime idea of what a wrestler in the NWA should look like, should sound like, should act like. He's got far more talent than anybody ever thought he did. He puts on barn burners of 5-minute matches. I want to see him eventually down the line become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Well, his match was good, but let's talk about this promo, because this was the best thing of the entire show for me. And I quote, this promo ends with him saying, "And when you step in that ring with me, you should question yourself that maybe you should have never done that." And then he looks at the camera with a "I fucked up" face. Just stares off into the distance. He doesn't finish the promo looking menacing. He just finishes the promo like, fuck. And I don't know if this was live or not, but surely they could have retaken that.
It was live.
It was live, so he knew he fucked up.
Yeah.
Was brilliant stuff.
I mean, it's Trevor Murdoch, and like that's kind of what you expect. He is becoming slowly the sort of 2020s Scott Steiner. Like, he can't talk for shit, but he can wrestle.
Okay, well, if it comes off like that, and it didn't put me off the guy, I just found it funny. I found it funny that he immediately knew he fucked up.
I just looked up May Valentine on Instagram, because she hasn't got a Wikipedia page or anything.
Okay.
Brazilian best-selling author, reporter, ex-Rolling Stone, VH1, MTV, Glamour, actress, model. So she's done quite a lot of stuff.
What, so she's a journalist in Brazil?
She's been a reporter, an author, an actress, a model. She's written for Rolling Stone. She's done work for MTV.
If you type May Valentine into Google Images, you just get a load of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so I assume Billy just found her on Instagram and thought, wow, Rolling Stone, I was in that. You know?
Look, I got nothing against this woman, but she's just not
Good at her job.
enough national charisma to be on screen.
She's not good at her job.
Yeah.
She would probably get fired by ITV.
Yeah, she'd probably get fired by Channel 5.
Yeah.
Anyway, rolling on straight into the NWA TV Championship. And this has a time limit of 10 minutes and 5 seconds.
Okay, so this is where...
Nobody explained that extra 5 seconds.
So this is where the pay-per-view started to upswing for me. But I also have to talk about this for a second, because apparently they were planning on originally making this 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Do you understand why?
That's normally what the TV Championship time limit is? On Power or something?
Yeah.
That's not very long.
6 minutes. Well, basically, they're trying to be clever by referencing the old school NWA, because everybody knew NWA came on terrestrial TV at 6:05 p.m. It was like a marketing tactic.
Right.
And through the entirety of the NWA's most popular run, all the kids knew it'd be on at 6:05. So because it's a TV championship, I assume they're thinking, oh, let's have 6 minute, 5 second matches. Makes no sense, though, because that's not enough time to put together a good to great match.
That's
to
not
change
long enough for a championship match.
No. And then to change it to 10 minutes, fair enough. But can I just remind you again that you have made no content for a year, you haven't built this show up, and you're asking people to pay $20 for a pay-per-view, and then you're putting a TV time gimmick on your pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Why? Made no sense.
Tim Storm really let me down on this one. I was listening to the commentary the entire match to try and see if someone said anything about this extra 5 seconds. I just didn't get it until why it was happening. But the whole time, well, it was there for a reason. They went to a time limit draw, and obviously their story's going to continue down the road. It was referenced on Power that Tom Latimer is pissed off, and the Pope is pissed off. Like, he's happy he's still champ, but he didn't want to win like that. So they're going to continue down the road.
I think this one was a good match. I gave it a 3.25 stars.
This was a great match for a time limit draw.
Yeah, and I mean, it actually felt sort of quite tense to get to the last minute. The only thing that I really think they should have done, because Tim Storm, poor old Tim Storm, was talking about how they've got like a minute left on the clock, pretending like they knew that. It's like, oh, they know that they've got a minute left. Well, they don't, mate, because there's no clock around. We can see it, but they can't. So they should get like an old sort of Casio digital watch on the wall or something like that. But no, the match was good. And I thought, I just have to point out, Pope still does a beautiful long distance elbow drop. He doesn't look like he's missed anything since 2010.
He does an unbelievable sunset flip as well.
Yeah. How did this guy not get massive?
I was going to say, like, in this match, the Pope looks fantastic. The Pope looks like someone they should be making the poster child of NWA.
But I mean, like, what happened to Pope's career to get to here
I
in
thought
2021?
He purposely semi-retired himself. Like, he gave
was
up.
A commentator for a good while.
In Impact.
Yeah.
I thought in Impact he went from wrestling, wanted to give it up, and they just encouraged him to stay on as commentary.
I mean, fair enough. I'm glad that he's working properly again. I'm not sure how much of the world remembers the chant "Pope is pimping," which is this very annoying Smart Mark crowd shouted. They later shouted "Fight forever, for Christ's sake." Oh, they pissed me off, bro. Anyway, no, this is a decent match.
Fuck's sake, we're backstage again with May Valentine.
You're gonna have to get used to her if you're gonna start watching Power, bro. Because
Mate, what? Between
She's
every single match, we're backstage with her. Like,
she's their Charlie Caruso.
But there was literally a guy. I thought the whole gimmick was you do the interviews in the TV studio with that guy that was behind the thing, and that guy did nothing all
I
show.
didn't understand this at all, bro. Apart from Tyrus coming over, and I think Aldous comes over at the start. He was just sitting watching the pay-per-view.
No, mate, he wasn't sitting. He stood there with a microphone in his hand for 2 hours and did fuck all.
Yeah,
Easiest paycheck that guy's ever got.
One of the main selling points of the NWA is to nostalgic sort of 40-somethings that miss those old school promos coming from the studio set. So now we're just like behind a velvet curtain like every other wrestling promotion. So I don't understand why at all.
Yeah. Anyway, this time Aaron Stevens knows what he's working with and completely just throws her off camera and does the promo by himself, which is great stuff.
Taryn Terrell is here, but I don't actually remember where I know her from.
She was in TNA. I think she was briefly one of the beautiful people.
Okay. I just remembered her name.
Yeah, she was definitely in TNA. She was either feuding with or she was one of the beautiful people for a bit.
Oh Jesus, she's a former TNA Knockouts champion, in which her 279-day reign stood as the longest reign in the title's history until 2019.
Well, I didn't realise it was the longest, but...
I don't even remember her.
That sucks. It sucks that Gail Kim hasn't got the longest reign. Maybe she's got the most reigns. I hope so.
she didn't... was she supposed to be here? Is she full-time? Because...
She's supposed to be... Just turns up.
Well, no, I just like... She didn't turn up on Power, and after the women's match, nobody ever saw her again. Are they just doing a gimmick now where former knockouts turn up and sit on commentary for every women's match?
Well, because on Power we had Velvet Sky.
Yeah.
Who
and they never mentioned Taryn Terrell.
Was miles better.
She was.
Maybe they're slowly going to go through all the TNA beautiful people and then work out which one sits on commentary the best.
Well, Taryn... Angelina Love next, then.
Yeah, that's it. And then Madison Rayne, and then they've done all of them.
Well, it's quite clear.
No, is it Lacey Von Erich? She was part of that group as well.
Oh, yeah, for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They could just get Brooke Hogan for the fucking, hell of it.
Why not? Let's just get all of them at the same time. We'll have like a panel. Anyway,
when Tim Storm's sitting in the middle. I can tell that Taryn Terrell hasn't watched the product because she was like Camille and Joe Galley had a little thing, and then Taryn Terrell was like, "What was that about? Do you fancy Camille or something?"
Oh yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah, and he was like, "No, we kind of had this like 9-episode run of a storyline. That was pretty much our entire output." So anyway, we've got Camille versus Thunder Rosa.
So this is the only match going into the show I was interested for, mainly because of Thunder Rosa, and I wanted to talk to you about her. I think she is definitely the only one right now, but maybe the only female mega indie star ever.
I agree.
What do you think?
I completely agree.
Because
Thunder Rosa has just got it, and people tune in to watch her. I would genuinely say, and I'll stake a bet on this, that more people paid for this pay-per-view for Thunder Rosa than Nick Aldis.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would. If she's going to turn up on a AAA show, or if she turns up some random show in Canada, I would probably check it out. I think she's that much of a star now.
Same. I would check out GCW if she turned up on it.
Yeah, exactly. And the match didn't disappoint. It was great. Carmel is one of the faces of NWA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did great stuff.
Camille specifically really impressed me here, and I thought Thunder Rosa was very good because I was expecting her to phone it in a little bit, and she's taught me that she does not do that. She goes hard wherever she goes.
This was recorded 4 days after her and Britt Baker had that brutal lights out match.
Yeah.
So she's got to be sore.
But this, again, Billy Corgan and priorities. The NWA Women's Champion is Serena Deeb, who they said on commentary wouldn't be able to be there because she was suffering from injuries. Well, she was suffering from... The NWA Women's Champion was suffering from injuries that she had from another promotion.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Was that legit, though, or was that just some kayfabe bullshit to cover up that she wasn't showing up?
I mean, it might be kayfabe bullshit, but either way, she's your NWA Women's Champion, and she's not at your comeback event.
Sure, yeah, that does suck. It's disappointing that they're not going to put... Well, maybe this is what's going to be happening with the future, I suppose, that the Thunder Rosa didn't get the number one contendership to rematch with Deeb. But maybe Rosa is going to sign with AEW.
Word on the street is they had Camille win because they've heard that AEW think of Thunder Rosa as one of their main superstars. And because she's working so heavily with AEW, they don't want to promote her too much on their own show. I can also inform you that Thunder Rosa asked for her release in November 2020 to become a full-time AEW star, and Billy Corgan denied it. So she's stuck with NWA for the foreseeing. And Billy Corgan has it in his power, if he wants, I'm pretty sure, to cut off the relationship with AEW. So Thunder Rosa's kind of in a precarious position right now because she's, no offense to Billy, but being held back by a smaller promotion when she should be on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand why the commentators wouldn't shut up about AEW's main event. They should be focusing on the match that they've charged $20 for NWA fans to be watching.
Yeah, well, it's a disconnect because it's not even the same type of product. AEW is a very modern, high-flying, and that match was hardcore. Surely that's very against this 80s look they're trying to go for.
Joe Galli couldn't shut up about it. He said it was one of the greatest things he's seen.
To be fair, it's one of the best women's matches of all time.
I know,
So.
but like,
I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Sell your own product, bro.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
I thought this was a much better match than it had any right to be, and I really loved those two spears right at the end for Thunder Rosa to take the pin. Camille looked like a bit of a beast.
Camille is a beast. I've seen a few bits of her before, and yeah, she totally impressed in this match as well.
Yeah. Moving on to the match that I was looking the most forward to tonight. This was the one that sold the pay-per-view for me. Trevor Murdoch versus the masterpiece Chris Adonis.
For the NWA National Championship.
Yeah, this is really confusing. You've got a World Heavyweight Championship, a National Championship, and a Television Championship. But you also have a 40-minute show per week.
Yeah, it's way too many belts for such a little company, isn't it? But I guess
is why the TV Championship only goes 6 minutes 5.
Because of all the history of the belts, because they've been around for so long.
Yeah. This was exactly why I tuned into NWA. This was a proper old school NWA style match, like the Big Bruiser versus the Greek God. Right, well, you know what? This match made sense because up until now, or the women's match as well, I suppose, but there was a really bad heel versus face divide, which again, this is meant to be an 80s product. Surely it should be totally obvious who's the hero and who's the villain. But in this match, there was a definite face and heel. Yeah, and I really enjoyed specifically Adonis using some old school heel techniques like the eye poke and the back scratch. And I did say to you, I think it was like as far back now as 2011, 2012, that Chris Masters was doing some of his best work when he was just sort of hanging around on Superstars. Yeah. But this really shows how far he's come, I think. He really has gotten to become a great modern day sort of Paul Ordenoff. And I think if he sticks around, he's a great addition to the NWA roster.
He did some good stuff in Impact, didn't he? Yeah. 2017 or whatever.
Yeah, it's quite clear that Billy picks up people based upon his relationships from his time in Impact.
Well, yeah, he hasn't been in the industry very long, so he's only got so many contacts. But with Adonis, it just seems like he can't get the fans behind him because he's obviously like the total package. He's a good wrestler. He's got an amazing look, but he's just, apart from you, he just hasn't seemed to have built a huge fan base.
I think this is one of those accidents of wrestling, one of those sad cases where somebody goes into a company too young in their life, shows themselves up for all of their faults, gets fired, and then never gets a comeback. Yeah. Because Chris Masters in like 2005 was not great. He was very green. He didn't understand ring psychology. It felt like he had a high-profile match with Shawn Michaels, and it felt like Shawn Michaels was dragging him through it. And I think those sorts of things stick with people, and that's all they know of Chris Masters now. You know, and when they see Chris Masters on a billing, they think, oh, it's the guy that I watched in 2005. They haven't had the chance to see his progression because he hasn't been on a big enough stage to show it. So now he's just kind of stuck.
Do you think his name is a problem as well? Like, a lot of people remember the old name, and now they don't really recognize him.
Yeah, I really do think they need to plug the masterpiece thing. They need to keep calling him the masterpiece rather than whatever his name is, because he can't use his WWE name.
Well, they could just insert that as a nickname, couldn't they? Chris the Masterpiece Adonis.
I'm not sure whether it's Tim Storm or Joe Galley, but they did a great job of explaining without explaining that the only person to break Chris Masters' Masters lock was the one that now uses it, who's the WWE champion. I thought that was some good inter-promotion to build up Chris Adonis.
So after the match, Adonis goes to shake his hand, but then attacks him from behind and puts him in the Master Lock.
I'm not sure whether we'd be getting on or not based upon the main event of Power later, but I'd really like to see a continuation of this feud. I'm into it.
Yeah, it was a great match. It went shorter than I expected, so they could definitely do some more with it. Oh, actually, before that match, we completely skipped over, but I won't go on about it. May Valentine interviews Austin Idol, which was just a mess. But after this match,
Austin Idol is like
Austin
Ric
Idol's on
Flair's
commentary.
half brother, who seems to have more marbles, but is also slightly more naturally crazier.
Yeah, he's all over the place, because I wanted to write that this was a great promo hyping the main event, but at the same time it was also a crazy rambling mess, but somehow was just on the line of not being unwatchable.
He's just got charisma. He's got charisma, but he's not got anything to say, so he just...
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. I think maybe if it was like a minute shorter, I would have said it was good.
I'm really not sure about the pairing of Austin Idol and Tyrus.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be weird. They just needed to pair Tyrus with someone that could talk, I think.
How about just don't pair him with anyone? Just, like, fire him, dude.
Well, that too, I suppose. There's a bell salute and a moment of silence for their fallen member, Josephus, and then
rest in peace.
And then we get on to Aaron Stevens versus Nick Aldis for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. I'm right in saying Aaron Stevens going into this show was a heel, right?
Yes,
and he's
I think
face turned because people are feeling sorry for him that he's lost his brother in arms.
Yeah, in classic seedy wrestling style. Somebody dies in the wrestling business for real, and you think, face turn.
Well, is it seedy, or is it that they wanted him to be the one to give the tribute?
No,
can't really have a heel give a tribute.
I'm kidding. This made sense. It also made sense that Aaron Stevens couldn't be a heel anymore. So it's a natural progression. And as we saw on Power, they're going to slowly break that tag up. And I have to tell you, the past episode of Power, this pay-per-view, I hated the idea of Damien Sandow being in a main event competition with Nick Aldis, and that was my main event. I got that it was a tribute to Josephus, but I just did not see that as a money match whatsoever. And this guy has won me over as the plucky underdog in 2 showings. I think I went from thinking that he was boring and out of shape at the start of this match to really, really enjoying him. I feel like he's got a sort of natural babyface fire to him where you just get behind him regardless of your personal opinion on the guy. And I think that no one showcased that better tonight in this pay-per-view than he did.
A lot like we were saying with Chris Adonis. I think a lot of people have just given up with Aaron Stevens and aren't interested in watching him, but I really liked what he did as Aaron Rex in TNA, and I've really liked a few other bits. I never saw
any of that stuff.
And I really like a few other bits that he's done on the indies. He's not been given a spotlight enough to really show how great he is, because he's a fantastic promo, competent in the ring, maybe not the best ever, but his natural charisma and character work is fantastic.
I mean, this is a classic case of people trying to prescribe gimmicks to people to get them over for as long as possible. And it turns out that the answer to that was actually just to let them be themselves.
Yeah.
Because when he turned up on Power and he was doing this thespian gimmick, I thought it was the shit. And he started to annoy me every week that he turned up. Now he's just a straightforward babyface in some trunks. I think he's got more going for him than when he had a gimmick.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. They say that the best gimmicks are the real person turned up to 100.
Yeah.
So...
obviously, I always expect a good match from Aldis. Like, he's a real safe hand at this point. And they delivered. Out of everything, this was a weird match. I thought, I get that the NWA does the main event as the main event, championship as a championship. But in terms of just in-ring, I thought this was the weirdest match to go the longest.
Yeah. True.
Just as from a matchup perspective, because Aldis, as you said previous, is your champion for over 800 days. And Aaron Stevens, up until a couple of months ago, I don't even remember him wearing the tag belts, but I always thought of him as a comedy jobber, you know. And then you have Nick Aldis wrestle 21 minutes with him and win by a small package.
I guess in NWA, it's just the main event's always just got to go on the longest. That's just the way they're going to do things. And the match does end with a cradle pin out of nowhere, which seems like a really cheap finish.
To an extent, and I also don't like it. I like it because it harkens back to the days of NWA, where they always sort of propelled this idea that anything can happen, and sometimes the champion would win by a small package. I also think it adds to Aldis's character a little bit as the sort of conniver. But again, as I said before, you've got a long way to go with Aaron Stevens to make me feel like he's main event status. And after wrestling for 20 minutes, your NWA champion should not be winning via a lucky escape.
Do you remember when Darby Allin did this to Cody? And it was like a big championship match, and then he kind of just got the win out of nowhere after 20 minutes, and you really disliked it.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know, I quite like it. Wasn't the main event of the show, so I quite liked it because it sold to us fans that actually these matches can just end out of nowhere, and random things can just happen. Luck can happen. I suppose on a massive pay-per-view in your main event spot, you want something a bit more exciting.
And I guess with the Darby finish, Darby's the underdog.
Yeah.
Nick Aldis is supposed to be your Ric Flair.
So he's meant to like dominate and really win.
And
Smash that finishing move. And
if you're going to give Stevens 20 minutes, then at least let Aldis win in a dominating fashion. A lot of what I felt in this pay-per-view and the episode of Power is that Billy Corgan has made a classic move, thinking continually about his own promotion, but forgetting that we haven't seen them in a year.
Yeah.
Aldis should have had to come in. He should have been able to come in again to this show and reintroduce himself as a dominant champion. Because
it was a tribute show, Aldis kind of relaxed a little bit his heel mannerisms. He came across as a face at times.
Yeah, he did.
You know, I mean, the very final image of the pay-per-view is him standing side by side with Aaron Stevens, waving a flag for Josephus.
Yeah.
Which is nice, I guess, for the family, but like you said, as a rebrand, not even rebranding, but just a restart of your promotion, it confuses the audience as to what Nick Aldis is.
Well, mixed feelings about that one, to be honest, because I understand why they did it and why they needed to do it, but you're building your entire promotion around being old school face versus heel, and you've blatantly in front of the audience on your pay-per-view shown all of the faces standing next to all of the heels.
So maybe with the family's permission, they could have done something really cool here with Nick Aldis almost spitting in Josephus's grave.
I mean, they could have done something, or even just, you know, like, you don't even have to make it into an angle. You could have just had the faces come out.
Just have the heels walk away, just leave the ring.
Yeah, something like that, you know.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Josephus was a professional wrestler. He would understand. He would like that, I assume. You know, he'd like being used as a gimmick because that was his entire life. He understands the difference between a heel wrestler and a person, you know?
But this is the thing that a lot of wrestlers keep saying, is that so many people are scared to use stuff like this to really get the villainous evil shit over. Like, MGF isn't scared of sticking a middle finger up to a little kid because he wants to be a dickhead. He wants people to hate him, and we do hate him. Whereas a lot of other wrestlers when it comes to like tribute shows and stuff, they want to be just a normal, decent human being, but then they're too scared to play up the heel.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It like on either side of the extreme of the fine line is one side you've got Jim Cornette, and on the other side you've got a wrestler winking and nudging an audience member and saying, it's all fake, right? Both sides have their downsides. Can we not just get a happy medium?
I really think Nick Aldis could have done something to be, even like they had the flag out there for Josephus. Nick Aldis could have like pulled the flag out of his hand and like thrown it to the floor, like even just something simple like that.
But again, it doesn't.
He has no respect.
It doesn't even have to be around Josephus. He could have just stood there, paid his respects to Josephus, and then kicked Aaron Stevens in the nuts.
Oh, like very final second of the pay-per-view kicked him in the nuts.
Why not?
I don't know. That would have been school playground humor, but sure.
Fair enough.
2 days later, it's Power. The Power's back. They switched the lights back on.
Into the fire.
I'm a big fan of 1 hour wrestling shows.
Same.
And this one I actually quite liked, but I didn't pay a ton of attention to it. I kind of had it on in the background.
I think it's one of the main reasons that NWA Power has people with goodwill that want it to prosper, just because it's a quick, fresh cut, 45 minutes. And you think of Raw, which is 2.5 hours without adverts, and like this is what we grew up with as wrestling. Like if you think about when we were kids, no wrestling show went over 2 hours with adverts.
No. No.
So this is refreshing. This is nostalgic in itself now. I've got this funny feeling with NWA. When I finished the show, I didn't mind it as much as when I was watching it. And the only reason I can explain that is, again, the sound issues. The sound issues give me a headache. They make me irritable. Because when I look back at the show after I finished watching it, I didn't mind it. Yeah. It's just those sound issues that need to be sorted out.
But the actual content isn't offending you.
No. Yeah, I mean, interesting episodes. Camille continued a dominant win against Alex Gracia, who apparently Velvet Sky took with her. It sounds like Velvet Sky might be doing a training.
Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa brought her in.
Oh, Thunder Rosa brought her in. This was a good little squash. Gracia's nose bleeding was a cool piece of imagery. Did what it needed to do, really.
I'm assuming that's what the story's going to be, is Thunder Rosa has like a load of goons that Camille's going to destroy all of them, and eventually they'll rematch.
We've already talked about how I didn't want Tyrus anywhere near Pope and the championship belt, but that's happening.
Yep.
Fred Rossier versus Matt Cray and Marche Rocket. Number one contendership for one of the titles. I wasn't paying attention. I could not remember what
it's for the Pope's title.
For the Pope's title.
Defend against that guy first, and then I guess Tyrus down the line.
I could not remember what the guy from the Primetime Players' name was called. And then the Pope on commentary just said, yeah, Darren Young. And they're all like, his name's Fred Rossi. But Pope couldn't give a shit.
I know him as Fred Yehi. That's the name he had when he went to Ring of Honor and New Japan for a bit. Okay.
I don't really know much about his work. I don't know whether he's a good worker or not.
He's alright. I quite like him.
Okay.
He's alright.
It was a perfectly acceptable three-way. I mean, Darren Young, Fred Rossier is the winner, so we assume that that's happening on TV next week. 6 minutes, 5 seconds.
That's nowhere near long enough for a championship
Yeah, it's
match.
A bad gimmick. I get that they're trying to
It's going to be time limit
back.
draws all the time, surely.
Well, if you're going to do a TV time limit draw, at least have a 10-minute.
At least 10 minutes.
And then a 20-minute time limit for pay-per-view for this championship or whatever.
AEW does 20 minutes and it never feels like a drag.
But I'm old school. I'm a firm believer that if you have a TV championship or a TNT championship, it shouldn't be defended on a fucking pay-per-view because that defeats the point of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've always thought that. It's like the Ring of Honor have a TV championship as well, and it's like never defended on TV.
No, what I mean, what? So what? Do you remember when? Do you remember when TNA had a TV championship and Devon was the TV champion for like 3 years because they forgot that they had the championship?
Yeah, they forgot he had it. Yeah, yeah. And wasn't that the one that was rebranded into the Legends Championship?
Yeah.
And given to Booker T just to keep him signed on.
Yeah, and then they forgot about it again.
Yeah, and then it became the Global Championship. I remember when it became the Global Championship. Every day in the playground, you would come up to me and be like, what the fuck is the difference between a World and a Global Championship?
Yeah.
Don't know, mate. I can't.
One's for
red.
jobbers. Mike Parrow is a cool pickup for Billy Corgan.
Well,
you know this guy?
Yeah, but what did its name used to be? Because I couldn't work it out.
Neither could I. I just recognised him. He had spent some time in Ring of Honor and some time in MLW. He's a really good worker.
I know him under a different name. I'm sure I do. Anyway, doesn't matter.
This is the big man that Billy Corgan should have brought in instead of Tyrus. This guy can work.
Yeah.
Plus, he's good. He's good PR. Honestly, for Billy, after like some of the shit that's happened to him with Dave Lagana. Jim Cornette, having a very proud out gay man on your product, along with Darren Young, is can only be a good thing. When your previous producer is apparently a scumbag, you know. But yeah, no, I think this was a good pickup for Billy.
I didn't even know he was gay, but
I can see him potentially having a monster feud with Aldis down the line.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is a good hand because he's been on the indies for a long time.
Yeah.
And been doing great stuff. Yeah, you're right. This guy should have Tyrus's spot.
Yeah. The first time I've ever been disappointed by Thunder Rosa, this. She had a very, very weak promo with Melina, and I didn't understand any of this.
This
Melina
is
was
when
like
I
pretending
messaged
to
you.
cry.
This is when I messaged you that Billy's gone all Jeremy Kyle on us. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. I don't know where... It was a bit strange.
What was it about? I didn't even understand. Why did they have... why was Melina crying?
So I think they feuded, and then now she wants to be best friends again?
Okay, but even if I had watched the last couple of episodes of Power, it's been a long time. Like, I shouldn't have to know this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just a weird little promo. It didn't sell anything to me.
They're proud Latino women. That's what it was.
Right, thanks, Billy.
Yeah, it was strange. It was strange. So the two women, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, they were... Thunder Rosa didn't want to be friends again. She was like, oh, thanks for offering to be my manager or whatever. But, like, I can go it alone because, you know, I just had the best ever women's match in AEW ever. It was a weird one. But I also was kind of into it. And then when I stepped away after the show, I realized that this is the same bullshit storylines that WWE does all the time with their women. That it's just friends falling out with each other all the time. So actually, it's not a good thing.
Yeah. Billy should be careful of falling into a certain trap with his female division. Especially if he's hiring people like the backstage announcer. Like, he doesn't want to come across as something that he actually genuinely isn't, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I really liked the main event.
Yeah, great match.
Aaron Stevens and Kratos with the Pope versus Nick Aldis, Tom Latimer, and Chris Adonis.
This slow turn they're doing with Aaron Stevens has been really good across the two shows. Like, they've nailed it.
See, he actually stood out to me from the rest of the other 5 guys, most of whom that I really like. He was the guy that really put this thing together and became the highlight of the match. High compliment.
Just to explain it, towards the end of the match, Kratos was going to use a steel chair, and I guess because they were heels, Aaron Stevens wouldn't have had a problem with this before, but it instead rips it out of his hands and throws it out of the ring. It's like, that's not how... What does he say? Like, that's not what we're about or something?
Yeah.
Whatever. And Kratos gets pissed off with him, and then they lose the match because of that distraction. I
really like the fact that they've just gotten to this and nipped it in the bud immediately. Like, if most other products, WWE or AEW, especially AEW recently...
Oh, yeah, it would have taken 6 months to get to this.
Yeah, I love the fact that they just ripped the Band-Aid off and did it 2 days later.
I'm wondering, is it just that AEW needed a face? Like they just needed someone, and Aaron Stevens can do either. Or
Yeah, thinking about it, you are right. They've got a very small face male roster.
I guess they're gonna lose the tag belt. They don't seem. Does NWA have any actual proper tag teams?
Tom Latimer was in a tag team with, I can't remember his name, someone else before the pandemic, and they were great, and they were going towards being tag champs, but I don't think they got it. They also had two really terrible, massive dudes who were brothers, but they all seem to have disappeared, so I assume that's just another impact from the pandemic.
They had 1.5 proper tag teams.
Yeah.
That's not really enough for a division, is it?
I think that this is what I'm saying earlier, though, that like it feels like they're just trying to use all of the belts that were associated with NWA. They've got 3 singles male belts, they've got a women's belt, tag belts. That's 5 belt divisions.
Surprised they don't have a 6-man tag.
For a 45-minute television show.
Oh well. Following on from these 2 shows, are you going to continue to stick with NWA?
I'm enjoying the product. I'm not sure how much more I can sit through without putting it on a very quiet volume. I'm interested by... they've done quite a lot of goodwill. They've generated quite a lot of goodwill with me for the past week. They've got me into Trevor Murdoch again, Chris Adonis. I like the Pope. I like Aldis. I'm interested to see whether Aaron Stevens can keep his underdog persona up. I've seen a couple of guys that I'm into just the look of, like Kratos. There's some shit like Tyrus. But on the whole, I think they've been pretty successful at sort of just maybe not changing the world or even the independent wrestling world, but just getting themselves back on their feet and dusting themselves off. I think they've done a great job.
I mentioned right at the beginning that I'm really not a massive fan of the look and the style of what they're going for, this TV set wrestling. But the storylines that they've done over these 2 shows have been really interesting, and I'm going to keep with it. I fear for me it's going to be a bit like when Ring of Honor does something great. I'll stick with it till the next pay-per-view and then probably get bored.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, the only reason I've ever watched NWA in the first place, to be honest, is I'm a fan of Billy Corgan. That's the only reason that I've stuck around all this time or even gave it a look to begin with. So I'll probably just carry on watching it. But I think NWA should be very scared because the other great 45-minute show, MLW, their owner, Court Bauer, is currently teasing that MLW is about to get a lot bigger. I think they've signed some sort of lucrative television deal, and that's their direct... I would say that that's NWA's direct competition. So...
Do you know who with?
No, not yet. He's just teasing it and teasing it and teasing it, but...
Is Ring of Honor not their direct competition?
I would actually put Ring of Honor at the bottom of the totem pole at this point.
No way. Have you seen the card they got for their anniversary show? It's stacked.
No, but like that's the problem. I'm not shitting on Ring of Honor. I just don't feel like anybody cares anymore.
But you've never cared. You specifically have never cared about Ring of Honor.
I was gonna check it out, honestly, when EC3 turned up, and then I heard he got coronavirus, so I said fuck it.
No, this anniversary show, EC3 versus Jay Briscoe, it's gonna be a banger, mate.
All right.
That's going to be a great match.
Also, last time I tried to watch it was like a year ago, and then there was this wanker that was like dressed as a magician doing magic tricks, and I just gave up again.
Dalton Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was it. Like I was that meme of Homer's dad walking in and out with the hat. Like I couldn't be bothered with it.
Yeah, Jay Briscoe versus EC3. That's going to be amazing. Jonathan Gresham versus Dake Draper in the Pure Rules Championship, and Rush versus Jay Lethal in the main event. That's gonna be a great match, great show.
I've got time for Jay Lethal, but yeah, we'll see.
Next week we're doing Lex Luger.
Yep.
Until then, keep it botched up,
brother.
Like, share, and subscribe to keep it botched up, brother.